It's a real privilege to speak with all of you today, as we've had a whirlwind of new developments for Graphite One coming through our summer and into September. First one, and now 2 grants from the Department of Defense. And we've welcomed a major strategic investor in Graphite One, the Bering Straits Native Corporation. All as we build to a strong finish for our 2023 field season at our Graphite Creek deposit near Nome, Alaska. So I want to get to the heart of things quickly. Please note the safe harbor slide. And I've asked that my slides today will be made available so you can take a look at your leisure at our truly talented management team and the G1 board, which we built out over the past year with skill sets that are essential to the progress we're making as we work through our feasibility study. There's also a snapshot of our cap table. And of course, I'm happy to provide a more quantitative detail on request. You get a sense of our who and our what and our how. And don't get me wrong, having the right team with the right experience and the right plan is essential. Nothing successful happens without all of that. My goal today is to give you a sense of the why. Why I'm convinced that G1 is truly integral to the transformation taking place in the world around us today. And for that, I've got a couple of slides here with some time for questions at the end. The why really starts with the renewable revolution, the electrification of everything. Graphite really is everywhere. And the phones you're holding, hopefully not scrolling, and the laptops or windows into this conference today, and all the devices that connect to us in the world around us. And the fact that we take graphite for granted, that we don't really make the connection between the materials that make this possible and the magic of the devices that we use today. It's okay, because that's where our market opportunity is. And that's what makes G1 such a great bet as investors, like all of us, to arbitrage our knowledge of how this new world of ours was going to work. There's another part of the why that drives us, because if you think of the materials we need to make this new world, there's a graphite crisis. Let us paint by numbers. 100%. That's how much the US relies on importing graphite today. Another way of saying production right now is 0. 70%. That's how much of the world's supply is coming out of China. How is the US going to compete in these new technologies shaping our world? Are we going to be a maker or a taker? Building what we need here or buying it from a country that wants to take America's place in the world? You read any headline, watch an hour of news, we can all see how dangerous that is. Depending on foreign sources of supply, in a world where adversaries can use material access as an economic weapon, it's really just not tenable. When you have a deposit like Graphite One's, it's more than untenable. It's irresponsible. You want to talk about American competitiveness, about American manufacturing, and about equipping the American military with the most advanced weapon systems in the world? How is that going to work with 0 graphite production? 95%. That's how much graphite is in the typical battery anode. You can't make one without graphite, and a lot of it. 494%. That's the World Bank's production of how much more graphite the world will need by 2050. 25%, 15 to 1. Sorry, right here. Those are the other snapshots of how much graphite we're going to need. It's a crisis, no other word for it. And by some measures, the global graphite shortage projected to be a few years out, it's potentially already begun. The US government knows it. You see it in the bills being passed for infrastructure. The IRA, the Inflation Reduction Act, to us, it's kind of a weird name because it doesn't really help to bring inflation in there, but there's a lot of funding for critical minerals like graphite. And of course, the triggering of the Defense Production Act to recognize graphite and the battery materials as essential to the national defense. It's been very good news for Graphite One in the last 2 months, because as you've heard, in mid-July, we received a $37.5 million US award from the Department of Defense. Drawing on that IRA funding, it will help us accelerate our feasibility study. You can go online to see Senator Lisa Murkowski just a couple of months ago on the Senate floor, explaining why the country has to get this right and how Graphite One is part of that solution. As I started today, we've had not 1, but 2 grant awards from DoD. Just a week or so ago, we received our second award from the Department of Defense, $4.7 million US contract under the Defense Logistics Agency to demonstrate that a graphite-based foam fire suppressant can replace the toxic fire suppressant Congress has declared must be discontinued by late 2024. So that's 2 DoD grants in the last 2 months, one related to the new energy applications of graphite, and the other one to a critical graphite application outside of the energy field. These are 2 strong signs that Graphite One is slowly being recognized as an essentially US-based advanced material provider. A clear signal that our project matters. Graphite One and DoD are in the same place on this one. Because you can't take on a crisis without a strategy. For G1, the strategy is to build out a complete 100% US-based supply chain for advanced graphite, from mining to refining to recycling. It all starts with our Graphite Creek deposit. The United States Geological Center recognized it last year as the largest graphite deposit in the United States. This year, the USGS came back and said Graphite Creek is one of the largest deposits in the world. All this on just being based on the drilling that we've done to date, which is just a fraction, 1 square kilometer of our greater than 16-kilometer deposit. Our 2022 drilling program increased our resource by 15.5%. And we're having an incredible 2023 program currently ongoing. As strong as that is, it's just one piece of the puzzle, because securing access to the 21st century tech materials is not just about supply, it's about the supply chain. We've learned that the hard way as a country and as a society these past 3 years with the dislocations to so many supply chains due to COVID and the economic shutdowns. It's still with us today. Sometimes it seems like whatever thing it is you need and find it's not there, people tend to shrug their shoulders and just say it's the supply chain. But I have to say, on balance, this focus on supply chains is a teachable moment, especially for us. It's a reminder in this global economy of ours that we need to know about the stuff our stuff is made from, where it comes from, and what happens to us if we don't have it. I can tell you it's a hard lesson in the resource world. It's not enough to discover and develop a deposit and pull critical minerals out of the ground. You've got to transform those raw materials into the advanced materials America needs to compete and maintain a modern 21st century economy. And you have to do it in the US. One missing link in the chain, one instance where we have to import from a country who is a current competitor and a potential adversary, and the supply risk and national security vulnerabilities come right back at us. And that's why G1 has not just evolved supply chain solution. We've created from Graphite Creek to our planned advanced anode material plant in Washington State, where hydropower, green energy to make a green tech material will give us the economics we need to make this work. And to complete the circular economy, there's the recycling component we're adding in partnership with Lab 4 to reclaim and reuse graphite material from spent batteries, which will become an important feedstock as we move forward past 2030. There's another way we're breaking the mold. We're not progressing our project in just a linear way, not the traditional path of just permitting the mine first and then ramping to production. We're going to begin an early stage commercial facility to produce a finishing line for synthetic graphite and phase 1 of production of 25,000 metric tons of synthetic anode material by 2026. That production, our non-linear path, will make G1 a synthetic producer even before Graphite Creek moves through permitting and into production, at which point we will flow our Graphite Creek natural flake material into our facilities alongside our synthetic production to produce a full anode product. It's what's needed in the market. And it's the best way for us to move the US off of zero graphite production and meet the growing anode demand. But none of this happens without making sure Graphite One's project is a model in every respect. The climate is right. Consider this recent Alaska survey this year, where 70% of the respondents recognize that critical mineral demand means new mining. But that last permit, the social license to operate, requires a strong commitment to ESG. Materials that are sourced ethically, with respect for the environment and respect for the local communities, and a commitment to create opportunities to grow as G1 grows. We've worked very hard and very close with all of Alaska's public officials at the federal and state level, and we are deeply humbled by their support. Brings me to the last piece of big news this month. Bering Straits Native Corporation. After over 10 years of continuous meetings and conversations, Graphite One just announced that they became a key strategic investor. BSNC is one of Alaska's leading drivers of positive development for their people, in keeping with an unwavering commitment to community and heritage. Following Bering Straits Native Corporation's unanimous 15-member board vote to approve its investment in G1, as well as make a public declaration that they're behind Graphite One, we'll be working very closely with BSNC to make our project a model, not just for Alaska, but for a nation navigating the transition to a new energy future. So what's next for G1? Well, I can say, just watch this space. Because as we know, EV makers need graphite and G1's got it. And energy storage needs graphite and G1's got it. And the DoD definitely needs graphite and G1's got it. And you look a little further ahead, industries we haven't even actually invented yet or even spoken about today, we need graphene, and we will have that as well. Thank you for your time today and for this chance to share our story. I look forward to our discussion, to welcoming you aboard as investors in G1 as we move forward together.
Awesome. Well, I certainly got questions. This DoD funding, how do you access that, and what's the timing of being able to access that capital?
Sure. Well, it's a great question. So we've just accessed that capital as of September. And the way it works under the DoD grants, as well as any other grants that are being offered from the United States government right now, is you spend $1 and you potentially get up to 50% of that back. So for us, we get 50%. So our feasibility is $75 million over the next 18 months. And we started that earlier this summer. And the way it works, Arlen, is say we spent $5 million or $10 million in a month, we would then put that into the DoD, and 50% of that gets sent back to us. And right now it takes roughly about 10 working days, or between
to
2
get
to
that funding back.
Yeah, about
wow,
2
that's
to 3
fast.
weeks. Very, very fast. In fact, you know, they've never done this before with a mining project, and so we were kind of their guinea pig, and we're very impressed with how streamlined everything has become.
All the other junior companies can thank you for creating that process then, because that 10-day turnaround is remarkable. Okay, so you got your $5 million loan from Tega. They're a major shareholder, majority shareholder. Can you give us a background about Tega and what they do there?
Sure. Well, Tega has been an incredible shareholder probably over the last 7 years. And they are one of Alaska's largest privately held mining companies. And the two gentlemen that run Tega are advisors to myself, and they're incredible shareholders. So they definitely came in at the right time, because, as you know, when you're dealing with Torrent Defense, we were not able to raise any money because of the nature of what we're doing, and we were unsure as to when we were going to be able to get that award and when it was going to be awarded, and it took a little bit longer than both sides realized it would take, and so that's when they stepped up.
Now, talk about other sources of potential funding, right? The DoD funding that you got is more on the project level. Now, the Inflation Reduction Act kind of bill, is there more capital access from that, and what part of the supply chain is that helping fund? And you know, are you applying for that? Do you think you're in the running for that?
I think that potentially there's going to be some DOE funding that comes out between now and the end of the year, is what we hear, and we will definitely be applying for that. Again, if you look at it from how it went last year, they came out and awarded DOE funding to companies that were essentially already producing. And so we are told that on the next round, it's going to go towards companies that are next generation, and looking at companies like ourselves that are building out the actual anode facilities. And so where we're focused is to create the synthetic side. And in doing so, there's zero synthetic anode production in the United States today. So our intention is by 2026 to be producing 25,000 tons of synthetic. And under our business model, we should be able to double that roughly every 12 to 18 months. And then when we go into production on the natural flake side in roughly 2027 or 2028, depending on permitting and build out, we will be able to move right into building the natural anode facility alongside of the synthetic facilities that we'll have already created.
So let's talk about synthetic and natural and the price discrepancies. Are they being used for different end products? And I got a follow-up question to that, but I'll let you answer that to start.
Sure. Well, right now, you're looking at natural is probably around the $8,000 a ton range, and synthetic is currently probably around the $10,000 to $12,000 a ton. Okay. So there is a bit of a price discrepancy, and you've seen cost reduction, though, is very important, and so that's where synthetic and natural graphite anode is. From most of the Chinese companies, I mean, that China's essentially creating all of the synthetic, and 95% of all of the anodes are coming out of China.
Okay, now let's talk to BC and SC now as your strategic investor. That's pretty incredible buy-in. Like if you ask me, like, you don't see this very often. How are they approaching this thing? How do they see this thing?
Sure. Well, again, that's over 10 years of building a relationship with an organization that is a serious organization. They're private, but I'll say they're just below $1 billion in revenue. And so they're a very serious organization that is involved in a lot of different industries, all of them revenue producing. So they do not just invest in any company. And this is their first foray into a company like ourselves. So it's taken a lot of time and energy from all of us to create the relationships and the trust that's needed to create a partnership like this. And so what we're excited about is working very closely together to train and grow together as we build out the mine site over the next 4 or 5 years. And that was incredibly important to myself since we started the company, as well as all of us here on the leadership team, to make sure that what we were doing locally was something that we could all be proud of. And so we're very focused on that, and they're very excited to be our partners. And as you can see, them investing up to $10.4 million over the next 12 months, that kind of was their way of showing that they are very excited as well. There's 15 people on their board. And what I mentioned was that this does not happen, I'm told, very often, is that all 15 were in favor of not just investing, but they had 2 different votes. The first vote was a vote on whether they should publicly get behind Graphite One, or should they just be a private investor. And they chose to vote towards getting socially involved. And that means from our standpoint, having an investor such as themselves, not just from the grants and the future but really for local, and say, listen, we are behind this project, we need the jobs, and we're here to help steward this project so it goes in the direction that we all need, and for a massive win-win. So to us, we couldn't ask for anything more, Arlen.
Yeah, your tenacity on that was pretty remarkable, and congrats on that. That is a great partner. What do you think the most the most misunderstood thing about the graphite industry is? Like, when you're in these big meetings, what do you think people don't get about this market?
It's a very opaque market. So that's a massive challenge. But I think that where all of the graphite really is being, as we know, produced is in China, and so there's nothing else like it. Like, literally, the statistics are between 94 and 96% of all anodes come out of China. So when you have a monopoly like that, the world, I think, tends to focus on areas that it's not as tightly held. And that's where the DoD looked at it. And after many, many, many discussions over several years, really came forward and said, we need to change this. And so that's obviously we've been focused on that for a very long time. But I think people are going to slowly start to realize it more and more, especially when we got the DoD grant. We've had some very interesting conversations with end users that believe that the United States is serious about creating a U.S. supply chain for anodes. Mm-hmm. And that's something that I think that over the next 6 to 12 months is going to become clearer and clearer to everyone.
Yeah. So you're going to kind of have to match additional funds to access that DoD capital. I'm sure the bankers have all been knocking down your door to raise money and get paid. But I imagine now this is more about who your investors are moving forward, right? You got the buy-in from Bering Straits, you got the buy-in from DoD. So now really to move this forward, you really got to be concentrating on who your next level of shareholder is going to be to move this forward.
You're absolutely right. And that's something that we're very focused on. And something to remember as well is that it's a very interesting grant. So the way it works is, say you start with $10 million, you invest $10 million in your project. At the end of the month, you can apply for $5 million to come back. When you receive that $5 million, you can invest that $5 million, and then you turn around and get $2.5 million back, mm-hmm. and so on. So we're able to continue to fund ourselves like that right now. Yeah. And in the meantime, we are in discussions with groups that are potentially interested in investing and partnering with Graphite One. But again, we're in an incredible opportunity to be able to be very focused on who the right end users and who the right investors are for Graphite One right now.
Yeah. Okay. So we'll shuffle onto the project level here. You've been doing a summer work program.
Yes, we have.
Has that been drilling, resource definition drilling, or sorry, I butted in.
Sorry, correct. Yes, we've got 4 drills running that right now from for the mine site, and an additional 1 drill working from building the road out. So essentially 5 drills going. We have 60 people on site this summer. So we have a huge program, and we believe that once it ends sometime middle of October, we look forward to having news out roughly the end of October, announcing the largest drill program that we've ever done over the last 10 years.
Oh, wow. Well, Senator Murkowski was just up there, and she did some great content and pictures. She had her hard hat on there and staring at some core. That was really cool. Anthony, you've done such a good job stewarding this thing. We've been working together for over 10 years, and just watching your dedication and tenacity on this thing is pretty remarkable, especially through bear markets, and how you found the right partners and shareholders to keep this well-funded. Your share structure is still well intact. Now on this feasibility, your last pre-fees basically say like 50,000 tons a year and in product. Was that about right?
Yeah, that's about right. Feasibility study is going to be much greater than that. We haven't come out.
So to talk about, like, you're going from the 50,000, where do you envision the bankable coming in at?
Sure. We haven't come out to say that yet, because we'll have a better idea over the next 6 months, but I would expect it to come out somewhere in the 150,000 up to 200,000 tons per annum for bankable feasibility, which is what we're working on right now.
Would you have a problem selling that in the market?
No, not at all.
Like, hard stop.
Hard stop.
That's crazy. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Anthony, if we're always here to answer investor questions, and Anthony's always available. We're always available to talk further. And thanks so much for your time, Anthony. You did a great job, and congrats on all your huge news here lately. It's been fantastic to see.
Thank you, Arlen. I appreciate you and your team, and we're just going to keep executing on all of our goals here. So we really appreciate all the support.